Okay, so now we're going to try one from the beginning. On the last slide I taught, this time you do. So we're going to do a little stop and start. As written, these scores are from the middle of the normal curve to the right, and there's our normal curve that we typically start with. So the question on this one is to find the probability that x is less than 57.4. Find the probability that the score is less than a 57.4. And just so happens I happen to circle what the value is. I would suggest that you find that z-score first and make sure you come up with the values that we're looking for. Okay? Go ahead. Okay, so going over the problem now. Finding the z-score is 57.4 minus 50. Remember, you always minus the average or the mu over the standard deviation, which is 5. That's 7.4 divided by 5, and I get 1.48. So here's my 1.4 on the left. Here is my 0.08. Put them together, I get 1.48, and I get 0.43056. Shh, quiet, Ziva. So that means the area over here, this Ziva, this part of the curve, the area from 0 to this line here close to 2 is going to be 0.43056. And don't forget, from the 0 left is 0.5. So I add them up and I get 0.93056. 0.93056. That's what the probability is. In other words, there's a 93.056% of the scores are going to be less than 57.4. So reviewing again, you always find the z-score first. So we wanted 57.4. I find the z-score of 57.4, plugging it into the formula. That gave me a z-score of 1.48. I then look up 1.48 on the table, 1.4 on the left, the 0.08 part across the top. Then I get the value, the answer, 0.43056. But I can't forget the left-hand half of this, which was 0.5. In other words, half of the whole area. The whole area is 1. So I take the left-hand half, 0.5. I add to it the 0.43056, and that gives me 0.93056, which means 93.056% of the scores will be less than 57.4. Okay, let's try the next one. Okay, so we have the same sort of deal, except we're going to do something slightly different. This time, we're going to get a score that is less than the mean. I would like to know what's the probability that x is less than 48.2. X is less than 48.2. Do some stop and start, and we're going to have to work through this one at the end. It's a little different than you think. Okay, so calculate the z-score first. That doesn't change, okay? So I put in 48.2 minus 50 over 5. I get negative 1.8 divided by 5, which is negative 0.36. So on the left, I go to 0.3, and across the top, I go to 0.06, because 0.3 plus 0.06 is a total of 0.36, and I get 0.14058. But here's the difference. Ready? The difference is that you're going to the left of the middle of the graph. So this time I'm going to subtract off that 0.15058. Whenever I'm to the left, I subtract off because I'm not covering that open white area there. So when I do that subtraction, I'm going to get 0.5 minus 0.14058. That gives me 0.35942, which means about 35.942% of the scores will be less than 48.2, or from a probability point of view, the probability the score is less than 48.2 is 0.35942. Okay? Z-score, table, interpret. The interpretation here is since it's less than, I have to subtract from 0.5. If it was greater than, I would add to 0.5. Okay?